The first episode of the American Bypass. Today we're going to be starting off in a small community in west central Wisconsin called Boyceville. And with this channel, what we're going to be doing is looking at the evolution of America after the interstate system was put in place, making faster, more efficient transportation available, and started a migration of industry and individuals from smaller communities closer to the bigger cities and closer to interstate systems, and in a lot of cases it left these small communities as ghost towns. But we want to look at the story. How did we get to this place? What does America look like, especially in some of these smaller communities? We want to not just drive around and look at what it looks like now, but get the perspective from people that live there. So in this first episode, which turned into 3, we're going to start off, we'll drive around, we'll get some perspective of what it looks like now, and get an idea of what some of the buildings used to look like. I found some historical pictures because a lot of buildings have been torn down, a lot of industry is left. But we're going to be talking to a barber who's been in town as the barber for 57 years. He's got a lot of knowledge of what it was like, what it is, and what that evolution looks like. Then we're going to be speaking in the second episode with Robbie, and Robbie's the one that set most of this up. And he has a business in town. He's one of the newest to the community. He's got a pallet reclamation business. And he's been staffing his business because he had some issues with that, but it's changing the demographics. He's bringing in a lot of Latino employees in a town that didn't have Latino population. He also is an amputee, and he lost his leg and is doing a lot of work trying to help other people, because that's a life-changing experience, especially the circumstances that can be around that, and helping people navigate what life looks like and how to tread the waters as an amputee and make that all work. Then last, we're going to be speaking with the sheriff of Dunn County. He's local to the community, but he's going to have a different perspective on what is the impact. Is there a change in the community with a demographic shift? What are the impacts, one from that's, impacting a lot of communities, but it's also definitely impacting Robbie when he's staffing, is the drug epidemic of fentanyl and meth. But then we're also diving into the role of sheriff, because sheriff is a position that a lot of people don't fully understand and grasp. And it's an important piece to know. It's the only constitutional law enforcement. It's kind of interesting. It's the only law enforcement written into the Constitution. So Robbie set us up with Dale. We're going to speak with Rob, and then also with the sheriff. So that's going to be the 3 episodes. So the first episode, 3 parts. So this first one is going to be more of the, what does it look like, community look like now? What is some of the history? Speaking with Dale Bird. Then we'll be speaking with Robbie, looking at his business model. What does his business look like? And then what is he doing also to help amputees? And then we'll be speaking with Sheriff Bird. Hopefully this is exciting for you. Hope you learned something. History doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. So for us to understand where things are going, and if we want to have an impact on our future, it's good to know where we came from. How did we get here? And that's what we're going to be looking at through American Bypass. We're now entering Boyceville, Wisconsin. Population of 1,100 people. And it seems to be, actually, according to census data, about peak. As far as goes back, 1930s, where it was about 573 people, the 1,100 is showing as the most that I can see. Demographic-wise, at least according to 2020 census data, it was 97.5% white, but as we go through town, you might see a little bit different story, and I'm guessing the demographics are shifting. What I mean by that is we have the opportunity, we're going to speak with Robbie. Robbie reached out with an idea because he owns a pallet reclamation business, and he is hiring a lot of Latino employees And it's changing the landscape a little bit. And we're going to be talking with Robbie about what that looks like. Before we get too far, I want to pull over here real quick and show you one thing that's called out here is, I can't see this. I'll have to get out and show that to you later. I'll do a U-turn here. Thank you, United Methodist Church, for your turnaround. The park there is Andy Pafko Park. And if you don't know who Andy Pafko is, I'll pull over here in a second and do a little bit about that. But Andy Pafko was a 5-time Major League Baseball All-Star. And I don't know if you can see this sign. Home of Andy Pafko, and this is Andy Pafko Park. A little baseball field, softball field dedicated to him. What Robbie has arranged is for us to meet up and get some perspective from Sheriff Bigd. He is the sheriff of Dunn County, which is where Boyceville is. So that's going to be really cool, a little memorial to Andy Pafko. And also, I think that's going to be a whole episode into itself. Hopefully I do that interview justice. And we're also going to be speaking with, take a little trip through the neighborhood here, and then we'll go through downtown. Dale Bird, who has been the barber in this town for over 50 years. So we were going to get some more historical perspective from Dale, other than just the basic data points. Because actually the history, like how Boyceville got its name, I can't find that online. It's very little information online. All I could really find is the median age information, which is 36.9, 25% of the population being under 18. Median income being $31,250. And for a family, median income is $36,389. 11.9% of the families and 13.8% of the population live below the poverty line. But the part that's going to be the interesting perspective is hearing from the sheriff, from Robbie, and from Dale, the barber. I'm trying to find a place to turn around, and this is a dead end. So, this is on the south side of the road, the tracks, literally, because the train runs right through the town. And the main town is on the north side of the track, so we'll be heading there next. I also stopped in the town bank and got some pictures, some historical pictures of what Boyceville looked like, we'll say in its heyday. Because there was a lot of businesses, got a trailer park here, a lot of businesses like a pickle factory, a creamery, a couple of car dealerships, a bunch of gas stations, grocery stores, most of which is no longer here. You'll see some of the remnants of it. Some of the buildings have been torn down, but you can see what it looked like before in the previous pictures. And also there's a library with some historical stuff that we'll hopefully get a perspective on as well. This is the main highway running through. And I'll show you where the bank is that I got information. So the right, there's an older housing development. Maybe we'll take another spin through there. And then there's also an airport. Not a big one. And there's the gas station that didn't make it. This used to be a bowling alley. That is no longer in business. Here's the bank, in which I was able to get some historical pictures. They had them hanging on the wall. They were very accommodating. They had some behind the counters, which obviously they were not going to let me in, but they did take them down and let me take pictures. So that was very nice of them. So here's the airport. Not a big one. They do host a fly-in pancake breakfast every so often. There's quite a few hangars here, so it's significant. But if anybody was wondering, you can see here that the elevation is 960 feet above sea level here at the Boyceville Municipal Airport. They do have restroom for you if you need. Memorial Park. And my understanding was that this airport used to be a racetrack. And I had a conversation with some gentleman in a barber shop that said, a different barber shop, that said it was the first racetrack in Wisconsin, I believe is what they said, if I got that right, hopefully. And somebody got killed, and that ended the racing, and it then became an airport. So that ended the racing in Boyceville. So I gave the statistics, and now let's go ahead and take a peek through town. Like I said, this is going to be just the opener. The main part of this interview, or this tour through Boyceville, is going to be talking with some of the local people here, getting perspective on what it looks like now. So it does sound like there is some effort. Got stymied a little bit with COVID stuff that happened, but to get some energy behind some renovations in town. There is a couple of bars, some place to get some food, which we'll be grabbing a bite to eat at, I hope, because I'm getting hungry. All I've had so far is some beef sticks and a couple of Red Bulls, which is not going to suffice. And that's probably where we're going to go, Buckshots. And right next door is Dale's, there's the library, barber shop, where we'll be interviewing him. You can see there's some empty buildings here, some opportunity for somebody if they want to come start a business. Because there's some movement around town. Some of the other towns I've been in, if there's a little bit more, some less. If you look at one thing I find interesting, if you look on other videos like Lord Spoda or Pete Santinello, some of those guys, they go around, here's that transformation of churches into homes. It's kind of an interesting dynamic that's happening. But they drive through a lot of these smaller towns in different parts of the country, and you almost never see people or activity. And that's the one thing I am seeing a little bit different around here, is there's actually people around, which is good to see. So we just went down the stretch of the downtown Main Street and get an idea of what some of the housing is like. Some neat old homes. Looks like pretty much, for the most part, well maintained. We'll get close to the end here and I'll turn around. But yeah, when you drive through town, it's hard to picture having several grocery stores, a couple of drug stores. I think it was 2 or 3 car dealerships, a number of gas stations. But the amount of activity that was in this town is quite remarkable. But that's part of the bypass. Once the bypass went in place, a lot of this changed. People weren't driving through the small towns like they used to. We're seeing a little bit of a flip, as some people don't want to live in the major downtown areas anymore because of the crime. Some of this is actually reversing a bit, and people are coming back to these smaller communities, which is kind of interesting. See if I don't back into something. Whoops, I did. Snowbank, got it. So that could bring some opportunity for a lot of these small towns, as new faces, new money, changing demographics come into some of these smaller communities. As they're not too, western Wisconsin here isn't too far for people to commute to the Twin Cities. I mean, it's a drive, but people do it. Or they can drive to a little bit larger communities like Menominee or Eau Claire. But some people commute all the way to the Twin Cities, or even people that are working remote don't have to worry about a commute at all. They can pick a smaller town where things might be a little bit less expensive, or demographics aren't the same as like what you're finding in a Chicago or a Minneapolis, where things are getting different, we'll say. They're changing. And we'll go back down. Oh, I should have taken that turn. I'll take a turn here. A different perspective on that church, which actually is owned by Robbie. He bought that not too long ago, and his house uses it for housing for some of his employees. But this is quite a house. That's interesting. All right, so this business is hiring. So we'll cross the street, see a little bit more of the other side of the residential area. They are hiring starting at $22.32. Not too bad. $2,500 signing bonus. So Oli, that's the name of this company. An ABF Ingredients company. I'm not really sure exactly what that is. Demolition Derby car alert. We're getting into downtown. We got the high school on one side. We're just a couple of blocks down from your shop. We're going to go through a little bit more of that in a bit, but go ahead and drive around. We got Oli, which is, Rob was just telling me about what this business is.
Yep, and they were the second largest employer in town. And as of last year, we are now the second largest employer in town, next to the school district.
So the school district's the largest employer, then you.
Yep.
And then this place, Oli. What does Oli do?
Oli, they make vinegar.
Okay.
So, you know when Oli's in production mode because the whole fucking town smells shit. The whole town smells like fucking vinegar. It's terrible.
There's a church. That one's still functioning as a church, which I'm finding most of the old churches have been repurposed. Building new ones. We'll see as we turn right here. There's Tiffany Creek we're going to be going over. High school stadium. But up on the left, it's one of these churches that was downtown, transferred out, built a new building, which seems to be a lot of them. Go for these old historic buildings, which are so neat. I just don't fully understand it. And then they go out and they build a pole barn. So here's the pallet reclamation business, so we'll get a little bit more information on what that is. That's a whole industry that I wouldn't have really thought about, especially the trend with pallet furniture and all that was going on. So we'll see how that plays in. Here's another part of the school district, and here's what I'm talking about with the church. So this is Trinity Lutheran. That used to be downtown. And like most small towns, you have some dollar-themed store. This is Dollar General. So this is a new add to the town, you're saying? This was a big deal. Like every small town apparently needs a Dollar General.
This was the biggest deal in town that I've ever experienced. It was like the Metrodome or the U.S. Bank Stadium coming to Minneapolis.
Every small town needs a Dollar General.
Yeah, you know, we got nothing besides the gas station.
All right, so I'm downtown Boyceville with Robbie, and we're about to go into Buckshot's Bar and grab a bite to eat. It's the only show in town, I guess.
Yep.
But Robbie is responsible for putting this together, so he's the one he's new to Boyceville. We're going to talk to Robbie about what he's doing, how he got here, what he's doing, because he's making a big impact on the community. And what that business model looks like. But then he's also the one that set us up with Bird to talk about the history of Boyceville. He's the barber, Dale Bird, And he's also the one that helped set up he did set up the interview that you'll see after this with Sheriff Kevin Bigd. So this is Robbie. Say hi, Robbie.
Hey, hello everybody. You know, I'll tell you what, it was a culture shock moving from downtown Minneapolis to Boyceville, Wisconsin, population 1,100 people. But I love it, and I got out of Minneapolis just in time.
Yeah, you did. All right, we'll continue it over a burger. What was that you were saying?
And the nice thing about this town is every building on Main Street, except for the 2 bars and restaurants, and the food, Helping Hands Food Center, and the library is vacant.
Yeah, you can see right here some really neat old historic buildings, but they're empty. Looks like old cafe there. You said this vacant lot used to be what, the train depot?
Yep, the train depot.
Actually, now it's a vacant lot. Train depot, and what was it?
The Service Masters was the old lumber yard.
Oh, that was a lumber yard there. Okay. All right, so we're now at Bird's, the barber for the last 52 years. So we're gonna get some interesting perspective. It's right next to Buckshot where we had lunch. Very convenient location right here in downtown. All right, well, we're back at Dale's shop, so thanks again for taking the opportunity. We tried this the first time and had a little technical error, so now we've got a microphone so we can hear you.
Right.
So that will help. First of all, just how did you end up in Boyceville?
I was born and raised here, 6 miles south of Boyceville.
Okay.
And went to school here, the whole thing, yes.
Okay. So then how did you end up becoming the barber?
I was a senior in high school and didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go to college, and somebody said, "Oh, I think barbering would be good." And I don't know, for some reason I said, "Oh, I'll give it a try." And I give it a try, and after a while I thought, "Gee, how did that guy ever have this shop for 40 some, or he barbered for 40 some years, 47 or whatever?" I thought he's got to be crazy. And after I got to 57, now I know that he was crazy. He had to be.
So you've been the barber here in town for 57 years.
I bought the place in 1970.
Okay. And who did you buy that from?
From Dick Joels, who was my wife's uncle.
Okay. So that probably would look a little bit different these days if you were to be making that purchase now, huh?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm sure it would, yes. Yeah.
So having grown up in this town and making the decision to be the barber, there must have been some reason you wanted to stay. Some people left and you stayed. Is there an element of the town that you liked that you just, or was it just an opportunity so you took it?
I guess more of an opportunity, and I ended up taking it, and through the years the town has went down. I mean, grocery stores and hardware stores and lumber yard, you name it. It's dwindled down through the years.
So let's talk about that. So when you were in high school, what would you say, like, in those years, what was the highlight of your experience in Boyceville?
Oh,
was there anything that stood out, like, this is something I enjoy about this town?
Oh, I enjoyed a lot about this town. Going over to the pool hall, going to the teen stop on Friday nights, and there was things to do, sporting events to go to all the time, and I was involved in some sports and band and choir, and so there was always things going on.
So you said this town has gone down a little bit, and there was a lot to do. So you mentioned the teen stop. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about what that was.
It was we had dances to the jukebox up there. Parents chaperoned it and kept it just as a nice, clean dance that the kids could go to and have fun and enjoy themselves.
Do you think if somebody was to do that again in this town now, would it work? Or do you think the community wouldn't accept that anymore?
Well, I don't really know how much the young folks dance today. I really don't know. Haven't been around that part of it to know how much that even takes place.
I'm guessing the music would be different.
Yeah, well, definitely, yes. Yeah, the music would be different, but I guess I don't know how much the young folks dance.
Yeah. So, in looking at some of the other things you've changed or that have changed, you mentioned there were grocery stores, a pool hall, teen stop, other things. What was like at the peak with Boyceville? What was the main street? What did it look like? You had gas stations, grocery store. Like how many? Can you just run me through what it was that was really in the town? Because I think there was multiple car dealerships.
Yeah, there was Chevrolet and Ford both had dealerships. There was Alice Chalmers, John Deere, International, and shortly or a little bit before that, there was Oliver's in town too.
Yeah.
Sales. There were about 4 or 5 places to get gas in town. There was 3 grocery stores and a convenience store, you might as well call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody had you just run to the store and got something.
Yeah. And what was right across the street? There's an empty lot there now.
There was a gas station right here that burned in, I don't know, in the late 60s, I would think it was.
Okay.
And then there was a feed mill right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot of change.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And there was a grocery store on the other corner, and then the bar and restaurant.
So how many restaurants were in town?
There was usually
probably over the time has changed.
Yeah, but there was usually a couple of them at a time.
And there's really not any other than a bar restaurant. There's not any restaurants in
right.
town.
Yeah.
Do you think the town would support it if somebody started it up again, or if they try and it doesn't work?
Well, back then, bars didn't serve food.
Right.
So you had your bar and you had your restaurant.
So there had to be room for something else.
There was. It was a different type. Yes. Yeah. Because the building down here now, which was Middlestead's at that time, the bar was on one side and the restaurant was on the other. She ran the restaurant and he ran the bar. And there was a doorway between, but
they kept them separate.
It was separate businesses because back then, it wasn't. Kids weren't really allowed to go in the bars.
Right.
Right. They overlook it nowadays to go in and eat and one thing and another, but back then it wasn't really that way.
Okay. You said something really interesting about the location, being here in the shop right on Main Street and hearing people pass when you first started barbering then and now. Can you restate what that was? Because I think that is so interesting.
Back then I started in 65, but the earlier years through the 70s, when you heard people talking, a lot of it was you couldn't understand because this was a Slovak community. Now, if you don't understand them, it's Spanish. I don't know of anybody around here right now that could actually speak and understand the Slovak language anymore.
It's pretty much gone.
It's pretty much gone as far as I know.
Well, this is something that's so interesting. I think that the history that we had and your role in the society community as the barber, there's so much that has been through your shop that you've heard, that you know the stories. That we sat down and we did this before and it didn't work out with the recording, but I wanted to make sure to come back and do this again. And going through, was in Glenwood City, trying to get some information, they direct me back to the barber shop. And the guys they've been doing it probably longer than you have. And it's just so interesting that the things that we have just kind of forgotten about.
Right.
The communication, sitting down in a barber shop and just having a chat and getting all the news and the wealth of information you have, I think is great. I think barber shops need to come back, or at least people need to come back and talk to barbers. This is cool.
It's a different, different setting altogether. I have people come in here that come up here from Menominee or whatever. And just the other day, a guy was in here. The fellow that was in here said, "How come you drive all the way up here?" He said, "Because I still want a barber to do it."
Right. That's all. That's fantastic. So are you still looking for new clients?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Do you want to give any of your information if somebody's in the area and they want to come get a haircut and a shave?
No, I'm here Wednesday night and Friday night and all day Saturday, and I don't do shaving anymore.
Oh, you don't do that?
No.
No straight edge?
No straight edge. I shave around the ear, but I do not shave people. No.
You used to?
Oh, yes. Used to.
When did you stop?
When I bought the newer style chair and it didn't have a headrest, I said, that's perfect. Perfect timing.
I was curious about that too.
So in the day, was it shave and haircut 2 bits?
Before my time.
Yeah.
That was before my time. Yeah.
All right. So would you want to have a contact? Like, would they call to make an appointment? Do you want to give your phone number?
Sure.
All right.
715-643-2535.
All right. The name of the shop?
Bird's Barber and Beauty Salon, Boyceville.
And because your wife has the other side of the shop,
Yes,
correct? So
yes.
Beauty salon, barber.
Yeah.
Now, are they open at the same time ever?
No.
Okay.
Not
Can't have
anymore.
that competing
No.
conversations.
No, that's why I always say I have flowers out here because, they wilt with the gossip over there.
They flourish over here.
I love that comment.
So as the transformation is happening in small towns, and you had mentioned it's gone from Slovak to now Spanish, are you seeing some of the new Spanish Latino community coming in?
Oh yeah, they have. I've had several of them in for haircuts. The only problem is I can't talk to anybody. You just kind of, they might show you something on their phone or
cut it like that.
Yeah, or they'll tell something on the phone and then switch it to English and so that I can read it. And yeah. That's the amount of communication there is.
So there's something interesting I wanted to ask, because as this evolution is happening where a lot of people left small towns, I'm calling it the bypass, American bypass.
Right.
So they put in the interstates in '56, and since then everything kind of got Walmartized, right?
Yep. Right.
Small towns got left behind. The railroad used to come through the station, all the gas stations, all that just went to the interstate essentially.
Right. Yes.
Now some of the bigger cities are getting dangerous, right? People are leaving.
Right.
Do you see ever a town like Boyceville starting to come back to what it used to be? Or are those days gone?
I don't know whether it would, not in my lifetime, I don't see it coming back. No.
Yeah.
Naturally, as you come down from the cities this way, it keeps growing and growing, but right now you're at the Baldwin, Woodville area,
Yeah.
And same way with Eau Claire is expanding toward Elk Mound, but we're still in the middle of all of that.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting going from, because I visited Glenwood City, then I went to Connorsville, which is a whole different story.
Yep.
And Wheeler too, which is the difference how much different each community is.
Yes.
Is staggering.
Yes.
But
yeah, it has changed a lot through the years.
Last time we talked, I brought up Andy Pafko.
Yes.
And you had shown me the picture, and I have that video, so I just want to segue into that because I'm gonna show that
right
as well, so we don't have to redo that again. But
yes,
I got a picture of the board and everything. So you just recap. You remember what was the picture was? What was going on in the picture again? It was
taken. The picture was taken in here for the Milwaukee Journal in 1945, and it was the people sitting here listening to the radio of the 7th game of the World Series when Pafko was playing with the Cubs. And obviously they lost that game because the Cubs didn't win the World Series until just a few years ago.
Right. So Pafko's got the field over here named after him, 5-time Major League All-Star.
Yep.
But then the picture, that's 1945, that picture that I'm going to show next is from in this store, 1940. So that's just kind of the context. So that's pretty neat.
It was taken right back here on the other side of the wall. Yes.
Fantastic.
Several of the people on the picture I remember. I knew a few of them. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Any last words?
Not that I can think of.
All right.
If you need a haircut, come on in.
All right. You heard it. He gave the number. He's looking for new customers. So if you want a good quality old school barber haircut,
Yes.
done right.
All right.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
I think you did better that time. Well, let's make sure. So what do we got here?
See, this was in the Milwaukee Journal
Okay.
in October of '45, and it was the 7th game of the World Series. They were listening to Andy Pafko play when he played for the Cubs. This guy is the fellow that had the gas station right across the street.
And that picture was taken right here in this shop.
Yeah, right back there. Yes.
Oh, neat.
This here was Lyle Height. That was the barber at that time. This guy here had the grocery store over there. This guy here was the undertaker. Now, they didn't have an undertaking parlor when I was around, so it was before that.
Okay.
And but that's what this picture was of. A couple of these guys, different ones, said they were on the railroad and they came in to listen to the game.
Oh, okay. All right.
The one thing that I always wanted to find out, and I don't know how I ever would anymore, but this auction bill, Mrs. Sylvia Knippel, and I have no idea who that is or where the farm was, or 29 head of cattle. You can see that on the auction bill, but, but it was in 47 or 45, which was before I was ever born. So.
Yeah. So as we were talking with Dale, he mentioned the Teen Stop, which was located here in what is now the library. And I stopped in, and there is still some of the Teen Stop here. So we're gonna take a peek at what this looks like. So you walk in, so it's been renovated. It's a new ceiling and some new walls. You can see there's a library. And if you go through this back door, what used to be the stage is still here. You can see the ceiling is much higher. And there's the stage. Were you gonna open the curtains? Yep. All right. We got a special presentation of the curtains opening. Wow. And an original mural that was painted. Do we know when the mural was painted? No?
I don't.
Okay.
But it was when they had the roller rink in here, and they would have music and
okay.
So that all went back, and they had a dance floor and roller rink and all. I think is from what I remember.
Okay. Yeah, this is almost like an old basketball floor.
Hey,
but quite some history here.
you alright if I call Dale and tell him to come over here?
Okay, so we called Dale back down over here because he hasn't seen this mural. He brought it up to us. He hasn't seen it since the late 60s, and we're trying to...
Tori B and Janet G. Down here there's a Tori B and Janet G.
So that wraps up episode 1, part 1. A special thank you to Dale. Really enjoyed spending time with him and getting his perspective. Off camera, there were some really good stories too, and he's got some good jokes. If you're looking for a good barber experience, need a haircut, go see Dale. But I think he also said something that really sums things up, probably the best I've heard. When he talked about sitting in his shop, and in the past, when people walked by, he couldn't understand him because they were speaking Slavic. And now when people walk by, he can't understand them because they're speaking Spanish. It just really covers the evolution that we're seeing, the transition from cultures. Because before they were speaking Slavic, there were Native American languages being spoken in that area. So when one culture gets founded, or a town gets founded, something gets founded, it means something else got lost. So we're just seeing that cycle happening, and thanks for coming along. Next episode, the part 2 of episode 1. We'll be meeting up with Robbie. Again, thanks, Robbie, for putting this together. So, hope to see you soon. I'll get that posted. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you like this, like it, subscribe, share it. Appreciate it. Thanks.